Welcome all. This is TapirCast new videocast. Actually, we are happy to have two actually privileged guests here. It's called IEEE MOVE, and it's a nice actually, as the word implies, move. And right now we're going to host both Mary Ellen and Mike together with Dr. Baykash, IEEE Turkey Vice Chair. And I'm going to give the word to Dr. Baykash because he knows these two people very well, and he's actually the I would say that the key idea in Turkey for the move, and I think it's gonna be a lot better for him to introduce you guys. Dr. Baykash, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Professor Yarkan. This is Tuncer Baykash from IEEE Turkey, and we are celebrating, I believe, 5th year of IEEE MOVE Community Outreach, and we are proudly hosting IEEE MOVE founder Mary Ellen Randall and IEEE MOVE International Senior Program Manager Mike Wilson. They are, I would say, more than MOVE actually. They have many other community outreach. They have part of many other community outreach programs. But today we will start with MOVE, and afterwards, actually, we can maybe discuss at the end the other ones, like the Smart Village afterwards. So welcome again, and I would like to start with Mary Ellen. So can you talk about MOVE? What is it, and what kind of a 5-year you had, and what the next 5 year will bring us? Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's a privilege to be here today, and happy to talk to you about MOVE Community Outreach and let you know about the beginnings of the program and where we're going with it. As was mentioned, MOVE is celebrating its 5th year anniversary this year, and we are calling that the day that we got the MOVE truck, as you see pictured, as the beginning of the program. We actually did work on it for a couple years leading up to that point, but I'll explain more about what's in the MOVE truck, what we do with the MOVE truck, and it is an IEEE program. It was started in the US, but it was really considered a pilot. We always intended to go worldwide with this kind of program, but since it was something so new for IEEE, we had to prove the concept and show that we could really be effective in this in these types of situations where there are disasters and people need help. And we can use our engineering problem solving skills in order to really help in that environment. So we typically do disaster relief. We have on board the truck short-term communications. We have computers, power solutions, because of course you need that in order to provide any kind of communications relief. And when we're not at a disaster, we use this great vehicle to show students and the general public what it is that IEEE members do, how we help during disasters, what technologies we develop in our lives, and it really brings the message home when they can see exactly how we're helping the community in what we're doing. So we have deployed to 20 disaster relief deployments. This was our most recent one this year. As you can see, everyone is prepared. Because of COVID, we've had to take special precautions, but we've even been responding during the COVID time. So it is, we have to prepare everyone. Everyone has to train with the vehicle and all the equipment on board. There's a lot. It's an ongoing program. It's not a once and done. It is an ongoing living kind of program that we do. So as I mentioned, we go to STEM events or science, technology, engineering, and math when we are not at disasters. And so this is called the Atlanta Science Festival. We try to go there every year. Of course, it's been canceled last year and this year because of the COVID outbreak. But typically, we have 30,000 people or more that go through the Atlanta Science Festival, and they're all exposed to both hands-on activities. These are IEEE members at the tables in the front of the truck that help students to learn more about engineering and technology and all the things that IEEE members develop. And then we invite them into the truck to see what we do in a disaster, what equipment we use, and how we help to bring relief to people who have been impacted by the disaster. These are many of the people that help. We have many more that help behind the scenes as well. But there are a lot of aspects to this program. So when the truck goes out, there may be only a couple people in the truck responding to the disaster. We work with the American Red Cross because they provide relief to the citizens. That's the way it's done here. But each installation, if you will, of MOVE will be specific to the location. So if in a disaster you have a different organization that works with the people and helping people to relieve their suffering, we would work with whoever the right parties are in order to provide the best service we possibly can. And as it was mentioned, Mike Wilson is our staff member who is a great help in expanding our program internationally. He's also on the call, and he would be, I'm sure he'll speak in a couple minutes as well. But we do many, many things. We have an operations team. They have to keep the truck running. If you don't have a truck, you have something smaller that you would carry with you, something like that. That still needs the same kind of care to make sure that it's always up to date and ready to go. So there would be need for someone to look after the operations. For us, we also have a weather team, and we have a lot of IEEE members who are very interested in weather forecasting, weather tracking. And since we tend to go into areas where there have been large significant wind events and or flooding events and so on, the weather team keeps track of all that, makes sure we stay out of trouble, and keeps in touch with the people who are traveling to the disaster area. We have a team that works on training led by Dave Sewell. He is actually also a Red Cross trainer, and we've managed to get him onto the MOVE team to help with the MOVE training as well. And we train in both our technology and the Red Cross technology. So when we deploy, we can help any way that's necessary. We can set up our satellite dish, their satellite dishes, whatever it is that needs to be done. We understand how they do their networking, so we work on all of that. Again, whatever needs to be done, we're one big team to get the job done and to provide relief to the people who've been impacted by the disaster. We also have to keep the truck up and the equipment up. And so Dave, the maintenance team takes care of that. We have documentation on all our processes, the manuals, so on. And we have a networking strategy. So we can provide a private network for us, and also provide so that they can reach out to loved ones, and they can let them know the radio's on board. We communicate with other emergency responders with that. And there's a lot of a radio club that we have. Again, many of our members are involved in those activities. So it's a ongoing interactive kind of thing. So we have international presence. That international MOVE was approved by the New Initiatives Committee of IEEE last November, and it went to the board, and the board approved it last November. And so on the international basis, again, we want to tailor those programs to other countries. So for instance, in a country where you can't get a huge truck around like we do, we're going to scale it back. We'll either use smaller vehicles, or we'll use modular units that you can pick up and put in a pickup truck or an SUV or whatever type of vehicles needed to get to the area that needs help. But this is all done by IEEE volunteers. There's they train, they work together as a team, they prepare, because at disaster time, it's too late to get ready to help. We do it all ahead of time, working with partners, and then we're ready to deploy when the disaster strikes. And unfortunately, I think we're going to continue to have disasters, and we need to be ready in order to get there. So at the international level, though, we would like to see, we'd love to have Turkey join us. We'd like to see Turkey have a special effort on MOVE, and then we will have sharing at the international level our skills, our tools, our experiences, what we've learned through doing these disasters. Even though the disaster might be an earthquake in Turkey or a hurricane in the US or a cyclone in India, we still have things we can learn and share with each other. And that's what we want to make sure, that we're all working together and learning as fast as we can, so that we're all as efficient as we can. And also our processes. So these things spell STEP. And so these are all the things that are important to share across the world. And that will make a step closer for us to advance technology for humanity and help humanity. So again, we are expanding. The new versions will be kind of unique, and we're targeting India and the Caribbean. We've started that. We'd love to add Turkey to the group, to the list. And I suspect you may want a modular approach, which is fine. We'll work it again to try to adapt it to the circumstance that you have. So again, these are all the things that we work through in order to try to assist you. We'd like not, for the new installations of MOVE, not to have to take 2 years to prepare everything, get everything ready. We'd like to work together and expedite that process. And that's part of what the international movement is all about. So again, this is a picture of the truck. We do have a disaster partner, which was important. In the US, you can't get into a disaster area unless you are in the Federal Emergency Management Agency structure. And the organization that was closest to what we wanted to do was the American Red Cross. So we've partnered with them, and we help each other, and it's a tremendous partnership. And we partner at the national level, so we can be called out anywhere in the United States. We'll need to figure out in Turkey who the best partners are. You need to understand what the government relations are, the type of support that needs to be done, whether you have the support of the IEEE members, which I suspect you will. And then we look at things like, what is the disaster profile? And I understand that earthquakes are something that you are more likely to have there than in the area where we operate. And so you look at the disaster profile and customize the solution to what is likely to occur there. And again, train for what the particular situation is. So, and then if it does involve a vehicle, you need to understand the laws relative to that sort of thing and operating it. If it's something that, the radios need licensing or something, there's a number of things like that. We look at the risk. We had to prove that we could operate and reduce the risk, because we don't want anything happening to our IEEE volunteers. We had to develop a financial plan and develop the volunteer leadership structure and so on. And so it is an ongoing thing, but it is tremendously helpful to people in our communities. And it puts IEEE and our volunteers in such a great light, because we're able to do tremendous things to help other people. Through the IEEE Foundation, below that is the presidential citation from the IEEE USA president. They gave us our initial start. And Engineers Week is always declared in our state where the truck is parked by the governor. So we celebrate that inside as well. The next picture is our communications rack, where we have the satellite controls. It automatically deploys. It's on the roof of the truck, and it self-aligns and we have all the networking equipment in the rack and so on. So that's all equipment that all the MOVE volunteers train on, so they understand how to use it. And in 10 minutes, we're up and going when the cell towers are gone, any other kind of communication is gone. And because we have the satellite that will deploy any place in the US, in 10 minutes, we have good, solid communication available to both the Red Cross responders, ourselves, and in many cases, we make it available to the general public too, so they can connect with their loved ones. The next one is a power pack. When we first did our study for the first MOVE truck, we talked to people who had been through terrible disasters. And in those disasters, they described what great lengths they went to try to charge their cell phones. They had like no power in the house. They couldn't get gasoline in their cars. They couldn't, it was so widespread, they couldn't really get out of the disaster area, but they did everything they could to charge their cell phone because that was their lifeline. That's how they found out from relatives where they should go, should they stay in place, what was going on in the larger area, and so on. And so that was so important to them that we added a power pack rack, charging rack to the truck so that we can do 100 at a time of these battery packs. And these battery packs, besides they have a solar panel, but we can recharge them for them so they can keep their cell phone going. We have a light on it because darkness was a concern also for long-term electrical outage. And these are all things that you don't realize how much we rely on the power and light and so on until it's gone, and our cell phones. So that was something we added. And we give these also to the disaster responders because they go sometimes house to house to see if there's anyone needs help. The cell phone system is sometimes impaired, so they don't get a good signal and their phones go dead. And so with these battery packs, they stay active for an entire day. So it's working out very well, and they're very popular. On the right-hand side is a satellite console that we built and put in the truck. Again, it was designed and developed and built by IEEE volunteers. And so we can keep track when traveling of CB traffic. We have other communication, a weather radio, different things like that assist us. We also have to log, the drivers have to keep track of their hours and so on. That has to do with the laws that govern this sort of thing. So this is just inside the door of the truck in the cabin in the back where we do our work. We have electrical panels. We have radios, so handheld radios, so that if we're deployed and working outside the truck and inside the truck, we can keep in touch with the group with these walkie-talkie type radios. We have different lighting schemes, some that run off the truck, some that run off of the generator, and a power system that uses both a diesel generator and solar power. So in a minute, I think I'll show you the top of the where you'll see those facilities. Again, more radio communications. We also we have a keyboard here and a little work desk because we have a computer in the rack. And so there's a lot of equipment that's available to us when we deploy. We monitor the weather in the truck work area, and we do this while we're traveling, and as well as get updates from the weather team as to what's going on around there. Work area in the truck again, as you can see. The pictures on the wall here remind us that we also do STEM education. And so these slides are some times when we worked with teachers on educational materials and things of that nature in order to, again, promote all the things that we do in IEEE and help younger people to understand that these are great careers that they should be preparing for. So I'd like to thank you for that. That is just a very brief tour of the truck. We do have one online as it shows in the on the YouTube channel in the slide. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe you have another presentation showing actually what we can do or where should we start. Can we see that presentation as well?
Yes, certainly.
Thank you.
Hey, my pleasure. So again, we are in our 5th year of actually deploying to these disasters. We're very pleased to have won a Power of A award in 2019 for this program, which is a great honor for us. And that is an award outside of IEEE with another association which recognizes public programs that do good for and that are run by associations. So we're pleased to have received that. This was our original description of MOVE, and we decided that we wanted to help disaster survivors who have survived the initial catastrophe, and that we would use the vehicle. But again, it's not just about the vehicle. That's sort of a rallying point, but it's all about the members and the technology that we develop and the service that we provide and the skills that we bring to a disaster. So we often call MOVE now MOVE Outreach, volunteers engaging engagement, so that we deploy with and without the vehicle whenever necessary, because we have such great skilled people who can go and help in these kind of situations. If you think about it, a natural disaster or other disaster is something that is unprecedented. Almost all of them are unique. There's some things that repeat, a lot of things that are new, a lot of problems to solve every day. So putting people who think like engineers and technologists, it's really helpful in addressing the things that come up day to day after a disaster has hit. So we started with creating the vehicle for disaster relief. We did focus groups, determined that we needed communications, light, power, and so on. What did the victims need? They told us what they needed. And then we also worked with other agencies that respond. We didn't want to replace them. We wanted to supplement them. So that was also an important step as you're building your plan, what you're going to do that enhances the overall response to the disaster. And so that we can fit in nicely like another piece to the disaster puzzle. So again, we were intended to help the disaster survivors, providing valuable services until the normal infrastructure was restored. And it really does energize the IEEE volunteer base. People like to be involved with IEEE and they want to do something that benefits humanity. That's kind of why we come together in this, and applying the technology and the know-how that we have that is unique is very powerful. It highlights our skills and promotes the public awareness, but it also gives us a chance to really give back to the community. So it is a very popular program with our volunteers, and we engage together and we engage with the community at large, and it's really a wonderful experience when you're able to help in this way. So last year, even though it was COVID year, we did have respond to 5 natural disasters, and we have 20 total in our over the last 5 years. And we are expanding internationally, as I mentioned, and we in the US, we're a national partner of the American Red Cross. And again, our missions lined up very nicely. So when we go, We help Red Cross with all the technology. We use our technology. Our truck is one of the big tools in the arsenal to get the communication flowing again. So the partnership is really important. And the other thing, when you're in a disaster area, we wanted to make sure that our people, the IEEE people who responded, could eat and sleep and have what they need, their basic human needs. We didn't want to just send them out without any kind of help. And so the Red Cross provides that valuable part of the equation to us. They make sure we have food and shelter and all the basic needs are met in that situation where we would just be one other group that's coming to respond. And so that helps us coordinate with the other partners who go to natural disasters and help out. This is an example. Again, we don't work alone. On the left-hand side is the Federal Emergency Management Agency for the United States. They come and they supply government, networks and different things like that for the emergency responders. The Red Cross comes in and works on the needs of the people who have been displaced, lost their home, lost their loved ones, need emotional support, need feeding, need shelter, need basic human needs. All these things are provided through them. And then we assist them by using our technology combined with their technology. And again, we're very effective in being there fast with communications and power. I'll give you one example. In a hurricane that we went to that was especially strong, Hurricane Michael, it was Category 5, which is the highest category wind storm hurricane that comes on land in the United States. And it's rare to get a Category 5. We were in there. It destroyed whole towns, huge areas. We got in there within 18 hours of landfall, right at the eye wall. It was an extremely powerful storm. It took out all of the communications, cell towers, everything. Our truck got in there and we were able to, we have internet protocol phones in there. So we put the satellite dish up and communicated across the satellite connection, and we could run data so that reports could be written. We could use the phones to call, make telephone calls, and all of the conditions were reported, the needs were reported, and so on through the network that we provide. And so it was extremely powerful to be able to do that so early in the disaster response. But in addition to that, our folks, and we never envisioned this, our folks who responded, these IEEE members, went 8 days without running water because there was no running water there. None of the disaster responders had that. There was bottled water, thankfully, and we had put some meals, they call them meals ready to eat, on board, but we never envisioned 8 days worth of meals would be needed. And so we did, they did have some interesting meals for the first 8 days until power was back in the area and water was running in the area and so on. And they said that the devastation from the storm was just incredible. So again, in summary, we do disaster relief, STEM educational outreach. The board did approve this program. We keep doing surveys and get significant member interest. We need to get all the partners lined up, and we'd like to work with you on getting all these things in place so that you could very quickly implement a MOVE program in your area. We're working on modular units that will be customizable. And again, there could be other kinds of vehicles that would be considered, again, depending on the location, the locale, the circumstances, the partners, all these things, how disasters are run in the area. All these things would help us to customize a solution for Turkey. So we'd love to do that. So the way that we're organized is we have, in the US, for example, we have a leadership committee that performs all these functions. They do social media, focus groups, marketing, newsletter promotion, things like that. We get media requests quite often, and we do interviews and provide video information, whatever we need. When we deploy, we have certain people that work exactly on what's needed to deploy. And so you may not have a lot of notice to deploy. So what we do is we reach out to the folks who have said they want to deploy, and we ask them, can you deploy? And sometimes it's for like a 2-week, we expect you to be gone 2 weeks. And sometimes they've been longer than that, but we swap the team in and out. If you go for a while and you need to get out of the disaster, we'll swap in another team. So all those things are logistical tasks that we take care of within the MOVE team, within the volunteer team. And we make sure that we have the right people skilled. So if we're sending the truck, we have to have someone who's approved to and trained to drive the truck, and so on. So all those things fall under that. We do have to fundraise and finance and work on all those kind of things. We have STEM operations, which we do outside of the disaster times. And then also we have volunteer and team development. As I mentioned before, we have training, we have procedures, all these things we work with the team on, and we meet year round in order to, we meet year round right now virtually, but in order to make sure that everyone is prepared when the time to go happens. And so as an international community, we want to have an international MOVE committee, and then each country and a region, and I use region in a more generic way, not specific to like the IEEE regions, but each locale that operates together will have their own local organization, like I showed on the last slide. But then we want these groups to come together and help each other and help the program at an international level, so that we're all learning and growing and expediting our responses and improving over time. Because you learn so much when you go and do these kind of deployments. It's incredible. And this is a great way for us to be on the forefront of whatever's needed. And again, this is the step that I mentioned in the last presentation. We have skills, tools, experience, and process that we can share, and that takes us closer to advancing technology for humanity. It's another step that's important to our growth process as a world community. So we do need volunteer leadership to run a program like this. We do have some initial funding for startup equipment training and so on. We do have to develop sponsors along the way, partners, and we do expect these to be donor supported eventually. We try to give a helping hand to get started. And so this whole program, we have a process to go through to evaluate all of the critical functions that are needed. And again, we're happy to support it from the international team to try to expedite the what you're trying to do in your locale and help to get you up and running very quickly, so that we have this great community helping in all these areas where there's so much need. But it is very gratifying to help when people have lost everything. It's very hard work too. I can tell you from the deployments that I've been on personally, it's usually very long hours. You drop to sleep really fast and then wake up when you're not ready yet and keep going. But it is also very meaningful work. Most of the people who have done this come back and say they're changed by this. And it's a tremendous honor to be able to do this kind of thing. So I thank all of you for listening to the story, and I hope that we can include you in our worldwide team. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this presentation, and I would like to thank you as a member of the humanity, I would say, for all your help during the emergencies and natural disasters. I would like to turn Mike Wilson. Mike, what is your position in MOVE and what are the next steps what should be the next steps for Turkey?
Hi, hello everyone. Yes, I'm Mike Wilson, Senior Program Manager, and I'm on the IEEE staff, which means I'm the one that helps out on the administration and assists the ambitions of the volunteer like Mary Ellen and others in order to achieve their goals and their thoughts and ambitions to move programs like MOVE into the world. So I'm delighted to be here. I do want to reinforce a couple of things that Mary Ellen was just in describing the program. The MOVE truck and what it does, and this program, we are not really first responders in the sense that we're jumping in there to help the people on the ground necessarily who have been victims of the disaster. We're the ones who are assisting the first responders and others that are having the need for expanded communication, have the need for power. So whether it's the fire departments, the rescue teams, the other various agencies that are going in there to address the problems with the survivors and victims of the disaster, we're there to help with the assist them with that initial communications and other needs that those responders have in order to be more effective, especially since some of the infrastructure may be destroyed, power is not being distributed in the community, the traditional communications means the phone lines may be down, the cell towers may be down. There may be some time before the mobile phone providers are back into the community and can get the service back up again. And so with the satellite link and other communications and power generation capabilities of the MOVE vehicle, we're able to supplement and make those responders more effective. Mary Ellen, did I describe that well?
You did, Mike, very well. Yes. And that multiplies our effectiveness, right? Because they're the arms and legs that get out into the community. We do also sometimes meet people who are sheltered and work with them additionally, but you're right. We're like plugging the hole. Wherever there's a problem, we get sent to the worst sites where the storm hit the worst, where the most damage is, where they have the worst communication or no power. And we're right there, to try to make everyone effective. But we don't go into burning buildings and take out people. We're not medical trained or anything like that. However, in our work with the Red Cross does have medical people, and they need all these communication tools in order to be effective. So we're helping in many, many ways that it just multiplies the effectiveness of what we do, the way we structure. So.
Yeah, the IEEE are technologists. We're the engineers, and we are the ones who facilitate what all the others are trying to do. Mm-hmm. And whatever we can bring in on a technological side, the communications, electrification, whatever that might be, our goal is to facilitate, assist, and make those other folks more productive in what they're trying to do in their response. Another aspect of this, as Mary has mentioned, is who is our deployment partner that we're working with in each of the countries. That's very critical, and that we have a good partner in the United States. It's the American Red Cross. Perhaps in Turkey, it's the Turkish Red Crescent or an organization like that they're the ones who call the MOVE for the MOVE truck. We may identify and see that a disaster is on its way if it's a hurricane or something can be predictable. If it's something like an earthquake or a fire that cannot be predicted, then we're there to respond. But in the United States, it's the Red Cross that picks up the phone, calls, and we coordinate with them. They're the ones who decide where we're going to deploy and how we're going to integrate with the disaster relief in coordination with organizations like FEMA and then the local disaster response teams that are in that region, in that community, or in that municipality. And we work together with them in order to be effective and provide the tools they need in order to be more productive. So in thinking about moving forward, there's various things that we need to do in order to consider bringing the MOVE international program to Turkey. First off, Mary Ellen and I and the others at the MOVE program, as well as the New Initiatives Committee of the IEEE, are excited about the interest in Turkey and having the MOVE program come to your country, and we'd like to see that happen. There's some things that we need to do to make that possible. We need to start building a volunteer group. We need to bring together a group of passionate champions in various aspects that are needed in order to make the MOVE program effective. So identifying a leadership, identifying some committees, building out those committees. For example, who is going to be our deployment partner? We may want to build a committee or a few folks that would coordinate and open discussions with who that deployment partner might be. We also need to consider where the MOVE disaster response would take place within the nation, and what best is the type of response vehicle or package it would be. Mary described the modular MOVE, and that's something that is a man-carryable set of boxes that could be loaded in the back of a truck or could be put onto a helicopter. When we think about some of the Caribbean island initiatives that we're looking at in Jamaica and Puerto Rico and all, when a disaster or hurricane strikes that area, when there's severe weather, then the roads are totally impassable. And so there we're considering using a MOVE deployment helicopter based, and that means it has to be in boxes that can be manhandled and loaded on and off. But if we're in a situation like the United States or in other parts of the world where there are pretty good roads, then it might be a vehicle. It may not be a vehicle as big as what we are using in the United States. It might be a modification of that. So the where and the how and the what it is that would be deployed, those need to be considered. And so there could be committees that could be built into considering, what are the disasters we're going to be responding to? What is the primary disaster response need? Is it earthquakes? It might be. Is it avalanches? I know you have had terrible floods in Turkey as well. You occasionally have massive fires. And so there's some other even extreme weather conditions and avalanches. There are a variety of needs that Turkey might have in terms of disaster response, and look at that and consider what the best package is. We also need to consider, as Mary said, how this program is going to be self-sustaining. So what is the fundraising mechanism? MOVE USA, the American side of the IEEE and the New Initiatives Committee and all that has provided some seed funding to get things kicked off, but there is components of the program that will need to be funded internally or from other donation resources outside of the IEEE. As Mary Ellen mentioned, we can help get the spark going, get things initially put together. But when it comes to more of those, what we might call capital investments, which would be the truck itself and the hardware that goes in it, there are limitations on what the funding we have right now can provide. And so exploring other means of revenue in order to make the program happen. And then once we get things up and running, like you might say, get it commissioned, how are we going to continue to support it financially? As we know, as Mary Ellen mentioned, in addition to the disaster relief, there's also the STEM usage of the truck for science and technology and getting it out there as a vehicle for education. And that's how it's used heavily, what you might say off season when there's not a disaster.
May I ask, what is the full-time employees that you have?
There are no.
You have.
Yeah, I'm the only full-time employee, you might say, that's helping out here. But everything else is totally managed by volunteers. The entire administration, the maintenance, the exploration of all the different capabilities of the truck. As a truck comes back from a disaster, refreshing it and getting it prepared for the next deployment. It's all volunteer-led when it goes and does STEM education and may participate in fairs and festivals or go to schools in order to introduce what it is and get kids, young folks excited about this area of communication and technology and get them enthused about engineering. That's all volunteer-led, volunteer-organized, and assisted.
Then second question, how many of them are life members, how many of them are senior members, and how many of them are student members?
Well, I can give you a little insight into that. We do have a lot of life members who volunteer for this type of thing. And in responding to disaster with our partner, they typically want someone to respond for a couple of weeks because it takes a while to get them in place and get them up to speed and then, and be responding. And as I mentioned, we do rotate through different responders. So we might go with somewhere between 2 and 5 people. We may rotate in other folks if it's a long disaster response. That is an ongoing kind of thing until we're no longer needed. We also, though, have young people who have joined IEEE because of this. And one of them was recently interviewed in one of our videos. His name is Brian Green. He's in a video from the foundation, and he joined after seeing us deployed at a hurricane. So we have people of all ages that are joining to help with this initiative. But we also utilize students, college students, for example, primarily when we're doing STEM deployments, because here we have some restrictions depending on their age that we couldn't take them out of class for 2 weeks and send them away. And again, depending on their age, they may not, the parents would have to approve of such a thing. And we're not set up for that sort of thing. So we typically deploy to a disaster with someone who is considered adult age. But they do help with the STEM education things because they tend to be 1 day or 2 days, short-term in duration. They can plan it around their schoolwork. A lot of times it's on the weekend. It could be during the week, but we always just call for volunteers, and fortunately, we've been very fortunate in getting folks who would respond and who will go. So even on very short notice, our last deployment, the tornado picture that you had in there, the truck was on the road within 2 hours of the call, and we didn't even see that one coming because there had been many tornado outbreaks across the country, and where the tornado actually hit was a surprise. And so we weren't really preparing for that one like we typically do for a hurricane. And within 2 hours, we were on the road, and we were the method of communication that was essential in that spot because the tornado had taken down all the communication, the cell towers and so on around there. So we get volunteers of all ages, but we do get a lot of life members as well.
To condense what Mary Ellen is saying, and possibly good for your podcast, I think we should say something that the IEEE MOVE programs needs all types of volunteers.
That's true.
The program has a variety of ways of engaging with the program. Of course, we need those volunteers, and some of those may be retired electrical engineers who have a bandwidth and a capability of being part of the disaster response. If you don't know when a disaster is going to happen and you need to make a call for action and have the truck or the vehicle head off to a disaster where they're going to be deployed for a couple of weeks, we need some volunteers who can take on that burden and go and be in place for a period of time. But we also have opportunities in terms of just the administration of the program, the technological side of the program, that's not a full-time obligation, and is something that can be done, what you might say, on the evenings and weekends. And then there's also the STEM education program, where we're going to events, where the truck is going to be put on display, other opportunities. So it runs the gamut of volunteerism, from folks who have the bandwidth to enjoy working with the program as much as their heart can allow. And then for those who have a shorter period of opportunities, we'd love to have them be part of the program as well.
Thank you very much. So my last question would be that there are, I believe, 3 countries that you are expanding at the moment, probably. And what are the differences? I don't think that India and Puerto Rico would be the same in terms of move development.
You are correct. Do you want to talk, Mike?
Sure, yeah. As we explore expanding into other countries around the world, one of the considerations are what are the types of disasters that they have? What are the conditions in the country in terms of moving the facilities, moving the move truck to that location, what the needs are. So for India at the moment, one of the things that we're looking at is it tends to be more weather related, flood prone, where they're having the typhoons, cyclones that come into the coastal areas of India. And so that is somewhat similar to the majority of deployments of the move truck in the United States that have been what we call hurricane related. But in other parts of the world, there can be earthquakes or it could be fire. It might be the disaster. There has been some consideration of a move truck in the western half of the United States, which has seen some terrible fires go through, forest fires and community fires, things like that. So again, it's what is the need? And so a needs assessment needs to be made, as well as what is the best way, the infrastructure, how would we deploy, and then what the truck will need to be able to service, power for how long, communication, what type of communication is needed in that country, and how can we best respond to the needs of those action heroes that are jumping in with us to try to attend to the disaster and the victims and survivors.
That's right. So for Puerto Rico, for example, we'll use modular units, and our Puerto Rico IEEE members are working with the Red Cross there to determine what they can do to supplement what they already have, the equipment they have. So we'll come along with our tool set that will complement what's there. In Jamaica, for example, the Coast Guard there would like to have something they can put in the helicopter. So each of these depends on the specifics that we're learning in each of the areas. And we have a process for evaluating new move locations that goes through in detail, step by step, what you need to do in order to move quickly through the process of figuring out, what's needed. And we've done studies in every area that we're exploring and that we expect to go into. So we'd be happy to work with you on putting all the pieces together so that, again, you're not starting from scratch, but we can benefit from what we learned from each other as we go forward. So
yeah, I'm checking that what happens in Turkey as well. So we have both AFAD, which is equivalent to FEMA, and also the Red Crescent, which is equivalent to the Red Cross. We will be able to talk with all of those people and then prepare a report maybe for you, and then we can look at our next steps.
That sounds great.
Yeah, Professor Erkan, do you have any questions about the move?
Actually, I do. What I was wondering, what we call, as Mike stated, as you know, myself and Dr. Baykash and everybody, being IEEE members, this is a volunteership issue. But what you described is, I think, extremely comprehensive. And what I was wondering is this one: managing this idea is actually quite comprehensive, if I may say, because you need to be alerted all the time. All the people who are actually affiliated with this development is supposed to be somehow connected to each other, I think almost 24/7, if I may say. So how do you guys manage this connectivity of all, let's say, move affiliated people, let's say? I'm actually curious about this, let's call that network. This is my question.
Well, that's a good question, and it's challenging, but it's also powerful. And so let me give you an example. First of all, our partners help alert us before we have to deploy. So the Red Cross sometimes lets us know that a storm, they may be responding to a storm and they will help us to decide when it's safe for us to put the truck on the road, and they have people who keep track of weather and things like that, which route they think we should take to get to the affected area. So we rely on our partners for those type of things. We also have our own weather team that monitors the weather, because we get a lot of the hurricane and flooding and wind types of disasters, and they will monitor those things, and they send an alert to the leadership of MOVE, letting us know that there is a storm in the Atlantic that is likely or possible to become a response situation. So there's a natural interest among our volunteers in watching those kind of things. A lot of those folks never deploy in the truck, but they keep an eye on the conditions that might lead to a deployment, and they alert us. They also meet as a team because they have an interest in weather, and they have an interest in responding to it, and so on. Also, many of the folks who are volunteering with us are in industry. We have 73% of the folks who are trained to deploy have an industry background. We also have a lot who are in academic environments. And so, but it's a little counter to some of the other IEEE programs in that we're more heavily industry oriented. But they do have an outside interest. Many of them are ham radio operators, and so they connect that way as well. And they seem to have common interests that they rally around to support MOVE. Now, how we keep them together as a community is, besides all these smaller groups that meet together virtually, because we've been virtual now for over a year, we do our training virtually. In the past, we did it in person, but now we've moved everything virtual. And we try to have a training event at least every month. And we might go over new equipment or some kind of procedures in the truck, or talk about how the weather team's operating, or what's going on in radio technology or satellite technology, or anything that relates to the problem that we're trying to solve. So we try to keep at least every month some kind of a technical meeting going. And then we also meet as a leadership team every month. So we try to keep these groups connected. And I will tell you, the radio team meets like every week or every other week, as does the weather team. They're very, very, very interested in those topics, and they rally around those topics and learn from each other and share ideas and new equipment or anything like that is relevant. And so it's kind of exciting to see the different interests of people and how they can get together with people who share those interests very easily in our virtual world.
Yeah, the MOVE program is largely managed by committees, and so the workload is distributed across the committees. And that's the best way to handle this. There is usually an umbrella committee that is made up of the various chairs or vice presidents of each subcommittee. And those subcommittees have a variety of tasks. So you think of it as if you're going to put on a conference. You're going to have a variety of committees that are going to attend to various aspects of the conference, whether it's the hotels or the meeting space, the food and beverage, the registration, all those different aspects, the marketing of the conference. It's the same with the MOVE. You have a committee that's responsible for the maintenance of the hardware. You have a committee that's responsible for observing the weather and what the disasters may be that are coming up. You have another committee that would be just focused on the STEM opportunities and what's the truck going to be, how's the truck going to be used when it's not responding to a disaster. And you may have a committee that is involved more in the communication side in terms of the satellite provider, the cellular or mobile telephone provider, coordinating with them. You may have a committee that is involved with the local deployment organization, whether that's the Turkish Red Crescent or Red Cross or whatever, the government agencies, and they're the liaison with the officials, just to make sure that we have everything registered, that everything's on the up and up. Can we put a light and a siren on the truck so that when we go into a disaster area, we look like a response vehicle and we're allowed through the roadblocks? Things like that. With the distributed across the committees, and then with a regular series of meetings every month, it's organized and the burden is not too much on any one person.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Many hands make light work, they say, right? But
Wonderful. So now, Mike has literally the Smart Village hat. Yeah.
Yes, I do.
So what is Smart Village?
Smart Village is another initiative of the IEEE Humanitarian Outreach. It started some 12 years ago. And what Smart Village is, the interest of IEEE members in bringing up electricity to remote communities around the world that have no power. So we're talking about the 1 million folks who live in areas of the world that do not have access to energy, access to electricity, primarily sub-Saharan Africa, parts of Latin America, and parts of India, South Asia, etc. These folks do not have electricity, therefore they don't have access in communication, internet, lighting to study by, and that's where we get our educational aspect. We know that bringing electricity into a community can be transformative, but if you can educate them, bigger changes can come. And that's what leads to enterprise development, the third pillar of our three-pillar program. And as we bring in electricity, provide them with opportunities for education and enhancement of their enterprise development on a community basis, now we're transforming a community and having real humanitarian change. We're doing this across Africa, areas of Latin America, throughout India, and it's quite a successful program, and I've been managing it for well over 6 years now.
Thank you very much. Professor Erkan, any other questions from your side?
I think, it was excellent presentations and talks. So, I think, I'm done with my questions, but of course, there is going to be a lot to basically talk afterwards, if
Yes.
you're fully, introduced. That's why just, I don't have any question on my side, Professor Baykash.
So thank you very much. So let's end our podcast at this moment. Thank you very much, Mary Ellen and Mike, to being with us. And you are going to hear from us for sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you. I look
Thanks
forward
all.
to it. Thank
Appreciate
you.
the opportunity to introduce the program. Thank you.
Thank you.